everybody? Welcome back to Challenge the Call with Max and Avery. I'm your host, Max.
And I am Avery. How are you guys?
All right, so today we're going to get into some other free agency signings from around the league, not just the Bears. We'll talk the men's and women's March Madness tournaments as the championship games have finally concluded. But before we get into all of that good stuff, we're going to talk a little bit about some baseball. Baseball had its opening day, March 30th. The Chicago Cubs played the Milwaukee Brewers. They won 4-0. Avery, did you watch? I didn't really watch any of this.
I watched the highlights, but I didn't actually watch the game. But I am excited for baseball to be back. I am an avid baseball fan. I try to watch. I'm more of a fan during May through October. And usually it drops off August and September because of football starting. But definitely if the Cubs are in the playoffs, I am watching. But I am a fan of baseball. I don't understand some naysayers out there that don't really like the sport. But I love baseball. So go Cubs, go.
I have never watched a baseball game on TV at all. I've watched a few in person. Like, in person is fun. It's fine. I've always said I will adamantly enjoy any sport if I am at a live game. I will watch anything. But baseball's just, it's never been a huge sport of mine. It's the one season I didn't do a sport in high school. Always took the baseball off. Because in Iowa, baseball is played in the summer. For those of you in other states that don't know that. So my summers are always off. I didn't play baseball. Never really watched baseball. Don't even know half the teams, frankly. But I know the Cubs. I'll support the Cubs because, go Chicago. Support Avery. But, yeah. Although, speaking of baseball a little bit, I do know some of the rule changes. Like this year, there is a new pitch clock that is helped to speed up the games. So maybe that'll help my interest a little bit. Games won't last as long. But, Avery, what are your thoughts on the pitch clock rule?
Yeah, no, I think the pitch clock is like revolutioning the game of baseball. Baseball is America's pastime. And to be honest, like it's been around since 1901 or even before then. So like seeing like the game finally evolve like it should have like 40 to 50 years ago. It's exciting to see because it's changing 4-hour games down to 2. And maybe we will gain more attraction to new fans like Max, for example, with this kind of changes. And this isn't the only change. Like I know there's more changes with like challenge calls and like stuff like that. I think each team gets 3 challenges now throughout. So that's cool too. But man, my question to Max is I wish you would have watched 2016 when the Cubs went to World Series and broke their curse because that is when I realized baseball was romantic.
I remember being in college at the time. I think I was at a party or something, or there was something going on in one of the dorm lobbies that I was hanging out with some people. And I knew the minute it happened because I think half of that dorm just all of a sudden started to hoop and holler, and it was like, oh, the Cubs just won. Like I knew the game was on, I knew what was at stake, all that. And the minute it happened, I just remember hearing it from everywhere. Like, yep, it just happened.
It was a wild moment. It will always be ingrained in my brain. I was actually at a bar in Cedar Falls, and I was watching the game with my buddy Josh, and yeah, same thing, man. The whole bar erupted because that's just big. 103 years. No, I'm sorry, 108 years. And then when the Cubs won that, that was when my okay, baseball, like this is an awesome sport. Like because I've always played baseball. I've always grown up with baseball, but like watching it, I was just kind of starting to learn how to enjoy baseball on TV. And so, like, it's that casual sport that you do enjoy on TV.
For sure. But moving into what this podcast likes to focus on mainly, my favorite sport, football, let's get into some of these NFL signings that we've had. So, biggest one, arguably, Jimmy Garoppolo to the Raiders. As we know, 49ers didn't want him. They've kind of tried to edge him out last season when it turns out they actually needed him a little bit. What do you think of him going to the Raiders and replacing Derek Carr?
Have you seen the Spider-Man meme when both Spider-Mans are pointing at each other? That Derek Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo, right there. Perfectly. It sums it up to a T. No, I think Jimmy Garoppolo is a good quarterback. He knows how to win in the playoffs. That's one thing that Derek Carr did not know how to do, is win in the playoffs. Win when it counted. But if you look at their stats, they're pretty freaking equal. The money that they gave Jimmy Garoppolo is kind of insane. 3 years, $72 million. That's a lot. That's a lot for a veteran quarterback. I mean, but Jimmy Garoppolo, he's going to go in, he's going to know the playbook, and he's got a lot of weapons around him.
Devontae Adams,
Hunter Renfrow, Josh Jacobs. I mean, they don't have Darren Waller anymore because they traded him, but still, that's a decent receiving core, and that's a good running back that you got placed behind you. And you know how Jimmy Garoppolo succeeds when he has a good running back behind him. And now he has this playmaker because the way Devontae Adams and Deebo Samuel, yeah, they're both great receivers, but Deebo is a different type of receiver than Devontae. Devontae's your true X that you can throw it up at any moment. Devontae's going to come down and get it. And just to see that pairing, it'll be really interesting to see how it goes.
I'm curious to see how Garoppolo does with the Raiders. I think it's a good fit. I think it's a pretty good match for him. At the very least, I'm going to say the Raiders could not do any worse with Garoppolo than they did with Carr. Potentially they could do better with Garoppolo, but I'm excited to see if he can just bring them to that next step and, hey, let's make the playoffs. Let's actually, even if we're out wild card round, let's come over that one little barrier and actually make it in.
And I want to mention one more thing with it is it's kind of funny because Josh McDaniels is bringing in a lot of former New England Patriots. It's like he's trying to build the New England Patriots in Las Vegas.
Like the Bears are doing with the Panthers in Chicago.
Yep. And because they brought in Jimmy Garoppolo, which is a former Patriot. I mean, he backed up Tom Brady for 5 years in the beginning of his career. They also brought in Brian Hoyer the other day to be the backup quarterback in Las Vegas. They've also brought in Jacoby Myers, the wide receiver for New England. So it's kind of funny that Josh McDaniels is like, how do I be successful in Las Vegas? Let me just bring in all my former players from Bill Belichick.
And speaking of the Patriots, Tom Brady, and just quarterback movements, Baker Mayfield is going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, replacing Tom Brady. Leaving the Rams, the very short stint he had at the Rams, but that one will be interesting. I always kind of liked Baker. I thought people were a little hard on him, and I thought maybe it was just because it was the Browns and they were a little too eager to be too good after being so bad for so long. But I don't know. He hasn't found a ton of success outside, since he's left the Browns. And so I don't know. I'm curious to see how he does with a Super Bowl caliber team backing him up, like Tampa Bay, as opposed to some of the teams he's kind of hopped around that were, a little bit run down in the dirt.
I'm excited about it. I think it'll be interesting to see. The one thing with Baker is he was dead for rights after his stint with the Panthers, and then the Rams gave him a shot at the end of the year. So he he balled out at the end of the year. So just that 6 games of stretch got him another starting opportunity in Tampa. I think Tampa will be also a team that looks to draft a quarterback in the first to second round of the draft. I'm thinking not one of the main top 3, CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, or Anthony Richardson. I think it'll be more of that Will Levis from Kentucky, or you're going to have a more of a Hendon Hooker from Tennessee. In the second round, I could see that kind of happening with Tampa, but I hope Baker gets that continued shot because, you were right. He got the unfair shake and with the Cleveland Browns. He got the unfair shake, and then he went to a really bad situation in the Carolina Panthers. And his only top target was DJ Moore, which, thank God we have him in Chicago now. But yeah, so like there's a lot of things with this. Like there's a lot of layers on this. But I think Baker will be successful in Tampa. But I do think Tampa will draft a quarterback.
And even if they draft a quarterback just to sit under Baker for a year or two, that gives Baker that year or two to just show what he's worth, show what he can do with an actual good team, kind of as he showed a little bit with the Rams. And so, yeah, I think even if they did let him go after a year or two, after kind of bringing up his backup, he'll go to another team. He'll go somewhere else. He'll be around the league for a little bit longer. I don't think he's quite going to be done just yet. Next signing we have Adam Thielen is leaving the Vikings and going to the Panthers. So they're replacing DJ Moore with Adam Thielen, which is, I mean, that's good. I like Adam Thielen. He's a good receiver. I don't know if he's DJ Moore level, but he's good. He's a little older.
I think he was DJ Moore level about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I think Adam Thielen, he's regressing with age. I mean, but he was still a great understudy for, Justin Jefferson in Minnesota. Like he was Kirk Cousins' security blanket. So to see a guy at that caliber and that caliber that he's been at in his whole career to leave Minnesota, a division rival, thank you. Thank you for going to Carolina. I always find it interesting because to see what other teams do when one of their big players leave or you trade away one of your big players, for example, with the DJ Moore coming to Chicago. I was wondering what they were going to do at that number one receiver spot. So to see them go get, Adam Thielen, I think that isn't as great of as DJ Moore is. But
do you think they're still looking to take number one receiver in the draft, though? Like Thielen's their kind of number two plan right now, and they're going to find their number one guy.
Definitely not in the first round because you don't trade for the number one overall pick to take a receiver. But probably in the second round, I could see that. But I will tell you one thing. The next player on our list, them getting Miles Sanders from Philadelphia, their running back, I think he is a better replacement than Deontay Foreman coming to Chicago.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think Miles Sanders performed very well. I kind of, we have hyped up Deontay Foreman coming to Chicago, but you got to be honest. You got to call it ace a ace. Like Miles Sanders last year with Philadelphia in the last 3-4 years in Philadelphia has been one of the probably top 15 running backs in the league.
For sure.
And to see
a good chunk of that, though, you also have to credit to the offensive line because that Eagles line, as we know, is the best in the NFL, best in the league. And so any running back in Philadelphia is obviously going to have at least a top 25 contention just from being behind that line alone. But looking at all of Miles Sanders' stats and everything he's done, he did that next to Jalen Hurts, who himself is also a huge runner in the Eagles game. So he was, in a way, splitting reps with his quarterback. So all of those accolades that he has with the Eagles, those are kind of split rep accolades. He's only getting, half of those true run attempts.
100%. Also, here's the contract details of both of these guys. So Adam Thielen was a 3-year, $25 million deal, which that's a lot of money for a regressing 34-year-old wide receiver. Miles Sanders was a 4-year, $25.4 million deal that included a $13 million guaranteed. That's a lot to give to a running back. That's more than the Lions gave to David Montgomery.
Yeah.
David Montgomery got 3-year, $18 million. That's a lot.
Especially the way we've been talking to the past, I think we talked about it 2 or 3 weeks ago, just the way running backs are kind of transitioning in this league anymore is they're not a huge commodity. They're not a super big kind of stand outish position anymore. you can have a solid kind of anybody running back, and they're going to do enough to get you by. Just with the way the passing game is evolving, with the way they rely so much on the offensive line and creating their holes and gaps, the running back is just, it's not as high valued of a position, I feel, anymore.
100%. Yeah. Like, and we've kind of seen that change kind of happen in like the early 2010s. Like after like, Adrian Peterson kind of fell off, and like those type of running backs, they kind of fell off. And then it's just, you feel like, look at like the career Trent Richardson had. He had 2-3 great years in Cleveland, and then he's not even in the league. You can say the same for Eddie Lacy in Green Bay. Running backs don't last. Like, I hate to say it, like, name me one running back that has lasted. Derrick Henry, he's lasted. But guess what? Tennessee put him on the trade block this year. They're actively trading Derrick Henry. They're trying to get his contract because they paid him that much money. They're actively trying to trade Derrick Henry. Same with Dalvin Cook in Minnesota. 2 top-tier running backs. Minnesota is actively trying to trade Dalvin Cook. And it's all because Young is better at the running back position. Fresh legs. You're always going to have the same quality, elusiveness coming out of the draft, speed coming out of the draft. Running backs, it's like cookie cutter houses. Mm-hmm. They're all one and the same.
And they just get so beat up on, like you're saying, new is better. It's because running back is the one position that they just get beat to shit. Like they get handed a ball and they take off toward the biggest dudes on the field and just get wailed half the time. Sometimes they don't even have the ball and they still get wailed, whether they're staying in for pass protection or just going out on a fake and they get smacked anyway.
Yeah, for sure. It's hard too to be a running back in this league because, like, look at David Montgomery. Like, there's no like control, like, how like a lot of players want to stay with the same team and retire and have that legacy. There's so many teams that are trading or getting rid of or not even offering a contract that don't even give them the option. If they want to continue to play football, David Montgomery didn't want to leave Chicago. Ryan Poles didn't offer him a contract because he's a running back. He's a 28-year-old running back. That's the high end of a life expectancy of a running back. David's probably got 3 more good years. That's it. It's hard. It's hard to be a running back like that in this league.
It is. It's definitely a tough position. Getting into some of our other signings we got going on. Orlando Brown, offensive tackle for the Chiefs. He is going to the Bengals. I know you have some feelings about that. You were hoping he would be with the Bears.
Yeah, he's just one of the best. This is the guy that I got faked by some fake guy on Twitter that I sent a screenshot and I shared it on Facebook. That I was like, oh, we're getting Orlando Brown. I was so happy. Like, it was right after the Nate Davis signing, and I'm like, oh my God, our offense line, we got a guard, we got a left tackle. Like, what are we doing next? I was like Peter Skorninski in the draft, just build up the offensive line, let's go. And then it didn't happen. And then he signs to be Joe Burrow's new bodyguard in Cincinnati. He's been really great. He played for the Ravens for a little bit, and he's been in Kansas City the last couple of years. He's been one of the best offensive tackles since he came in. The Bengals gave him a 4-year, $64 million contract, including $31 million signing bonus.
Damn. Yeah, I think this is a great move for the Bengals. Obviously, Joe Burrow is an elite quarterback. He showed that with 2 Super Bowl appearances. He's got Jamar Chase, his old buddy there. They've got a solid running back, Joe Mixon. That O-line is the only thing that, could be a little bit hit or miss at times. Burrow having to scramble a lot to get away from pressures, him kind of throwing out of the pocket, things like that. That line is truly just the last piece that they're kind of looking for that Super Bowl win, and this could be the game changer for them, giving Burrow just that extra couple seconds, that little bit of extra protection, will go a long way.
Oh, 100%. I agree. I think this is a beautiful signing. I like what Cincinnati's doing. Like, Cincinnati's never been that type of team to put a lot of eggs in one basket. But they know what type of quarterback Joe Burrow is. They know what type of X factor they have. And they know he's still on a rookie deal. And when you got all three factors, sign, sign, sign. And that's what they've been doing the last couple of years. So keep it up. Like, you guys are like an actual contender. People know who you are in the AFC. So keep it up.
Another player leaving the Chiefs, Juju Smith-Schuster, is going to the Patriots.
One thing I gotta say is the Chiefs are getting picked apart. Like, they are getting vultured over by like every team.
I mean, they did just win a Super Bowl, so.
And they've won 2 Super Bowls in the last 3 years. Like, it makes a lot of sense. Like, they have a lot of great players. The way I look at this, Juju got his ring. Juju can go and do wherever. He can go where the most money is at this point. And I think this is where the most money is. Will he be successful in New England? He'll be okay. I don't think he'll have 1 or 2 1,000-yard seasons.
Who's New England's quarterback right now? Do we actually know?
Right now, it's Mac Jones. But Mac Jones is on the trade block, everybody. Bill Belichick is trying to trade Mac Jones. He's done with Mac Jones. He's done with Bailey Zappi.
So this could be a huge hit or miss for Smith-Schuster. Like, he could have a solid quarterback. He could have a yikes quarterback. So this is a bold kind of risk by him.
Yes, he could have anywhere from Lamar Jackson, because there's been a lot of rumors Lamar Jackson might be going to New England, or he could have anywhere middle ground Mac Jones, or he could have a rookie quarterback in the NFL draft, like Hendon Hooker or a Anthony Richardson out of Florida. So, like, there are multiple New England. I don't think New England knows what they're doing at quarterback. I don't know if Bill's like, I just want Tom back. Let me get him out of retirement.
Hey, he's left retirement once before. Maybe Bill can get him to do it again.
For sure. I mean, but New England is bringing X factors and playmakers in. They're bringing Mike Gesicki, tight end from Miami, over. So, like, that's another big play, big move. I have always liked Mike Gesicki. I think he's always been really great down in Miami. He's like that unheralded tight end that people don't really talk about as much as like George Kittle, Darren Waller, but he's fun to watch.
He is. I like watching Gesicki play. I've always kind of appreciated him as a tight end. And like you said, he's not a huge, flashy kind of Travis Kelce guy, but he comes in, he does his job. I think you said it last week. He's your typical come in, do the job, and go home type of guy.
For sure. 100%. But yeah, so I think New England's trying to – I think those two moves right there are like enticing towards Lamar Jackson. I think because if you look at Lamar Jackson, what does he not have in Baltimore? He doesn't have a receiver. His best receiver is a kick returner. And his other best receiver is Mark Andrews, a tight end, which is great. By bringing in Mike Gesicki, a legit tight end, and bringing in Juju Smith-Schuster, I think that's like, all right, Lamar, Baltimore doesn't want to build around you and give you the money. We will. Here's what we got in place.
And I think that's hard by Bill's part. If anybody knows how to play the game outside of playing the game, it's definitely Bill Belichick. And I think that's exactly right. I think that is a just power move for him. He's like, hey, you're not even here yet, but this is how much I believe and I trust in you. I'm building this team around you, and you're not even here. So we just need one more piece. And I need you to join up.
And I think that's why he's actively put Mac Jones' name on the trade block, because I think he's also going one farther and being like, we'll get rid of our starting quarterback. Yeah. He'll go somewhere.
That's a all eggs in one basket kind of move right there.
It's the Aaron Rodgers move in New York that you got going on.
Two more trades we got. Allen Lazard, wide receiver from the Packers, going to the Jets. Mecole Hardman, wide receiver from Kansas City, going to the Jets. Supposedly going to be firepower for Aaron Rodgers should that deal ever actually come through, which it has not.
What is going on? I do know what's going on. So, from what I've read and what I've heard is that the Jets want to give them only one first-round pick. Green Bay, or the Jets want more than one first-round pick. I'm sorry. The Packers want more than one first-round pick. The Packers want 2 first-round picks. The Jets only want to give them 1 first-round pick, which I think is totally reasonable because Aaron Rodgers is 39 years old. You probably got him for 3 to 4 more years. I don't think he's worth 2 first-round picks.
He is definitely not worth 2 first-round whatsoever. 1 first-round, sure. He's a great quarterback. He's an elite quarterback. That even if you wanted to give them a first-round and maybe a second round the following year, I could reasonably see it. But 2 first rounds, that is steep.
That's very steep. And then it's funny because the Packers know they have no momentum because Aaron Rodgers already came out and said, I plan on playing for the New York Jets. So that they're in just a stalemate at this moment. And I don't think a deal is going to get done until after the NFL draft happens, which that makes sense because then they don't got to waste their first rounder this year. They can roll it in and be like, okay, mind over matter. I don't got to worry about it until next year. I think that's where they're at. But dang, the Jets are building a team for Aaron Rodgers.
They want those receivers. They saw when Aaron Rodgers was at his absolute best with Devontae Adams and Allen Lazard and the other top-notch receivers that he had around him, and they know that if they want Rodgers to be successful with them, they need those kind of guys in. Not even just those kind of guys, but those exact guys as they bring over Allen Lazard, who is familiar with Rodgers. They'll work well together. They'll already be timed up and synced and everything. So they should be right on the same page from the get-go, ideally.
100%. Yeah, and Mecole Hardman, oh my goodness, a burner. 100% a burner. And the Jets have worked out Ezekiel Elliott. Yep. And so, they haven't agreed on a contract. I think that's another position that Zeke won't find a job until after the draft. But if the Jets do decide to go that direction with Zeke, then, you just look at that offense. Quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. Running back, Breece Hall. Change of pace running back, Zeke. Still has some gas left in the tank. Wide receivers, who do they got? They got
Allen Lazard, Mecole Hardman.
Allen Lazard, Mecole Hardman, and then they have their rookie wide receiver this year that balled out, Wilson.
Might need to look up a name on that real quick. I didn't watch it a lot. But Ezekiel Elliott doesn't really move that needle at all for me whatsoever. Having Breece Hall, that's definitely all that matters in my head. You could say any running back is the secondary guy, and I would think of it all the same way. I really am not a fan of Zeke. I think he's done. I don't think he's doing anything super great this season.
For sure. I mean, okay, so Garrett Wilson, Mecole Hardman, Corey Davis, Allen Lazard, Denzel Mims, these guys, and then their tight ends. They brought in Tyler Conklin from Minnesota. They also got C.J. Uzma. These guys, this is a good, solid team. I think this team brings New York to a playoff contending team. And, there's just a clip that I remember about Zach Wilson that when he got benched and someone said, if the New York Jets bring in a new quarterback this offseason, what's that going to be like to you? And he's like, I'm going to make that guy's life hell every day of practice. And the way I look at it, I'm like, that guy is Aaron Rodgers, right, man. You got to put some respect on this name.
You are giving Aaron Rodgers no hell whatsoever during practice.
He's not even thinking about you. But to be honest, the weird thing is Zach Wilson just a younger Aaron Rodgers? Same personality, same cocky attitude. I mean,
Did
if
Rodgers
Zach
come?
Wilson learned,
I think the biggest distinction there is Rodgers came into the league as a backup. He came in sitting behind Brett Favre for how many years?
5 years.
5 years before he ever even touched the field.
And it's kind of
Aaron
crazy.
Aaron Rodgers' big cockiness comes from his long-term success of being in the league, that he kind of got cockier and more arrogant as he was like, yeah, I've shown that I can do some shit. Zach Wilson came in, started right away, hasn't done shit, and takes zero responsibility or accountability for the fact that the Jets have still not quite moved the needle like they need to.
Yeah, well, so and the crazy part with the Aaron Rodgers thing is, like, he was a first-round pick, too. And he sat that long. He sat that long. That would make any man bitter. Being a first-round pick, that would make any man.
That'd be hard. Could you imagine going into the league like, yeah, I'm playing professional football. I just signed my contract. This is going to be great. And for 5 years, you don't play football.
You sit behind that same guy, that same veteran, and you're like, God, I hate this. I hate this guy. And then he moves on, and then you terrorize Chicago, and then, you become a cocky asshole. Sorry, pardon my language, but fuck you, Aaron Rodgers.
Definitely. It'll almost be worth it in that way. It's so hard to imagine sitting and waiting for so long, especially because nowadays I feel like a lot of guys view coming in and sitting and waiting as a downside. They view it as like, I'm not good enough to play in this league. I'm only getting older. I'm only aging out. I'm only getting worse. My window is shrinking. I feel like a lot of them feel that way when they first enter and don't play right away. So I get it. It's difficult. But in some cases, you do find success like Rodgers, where, hey, you're going to sit for a while, but that sitting will do its due diligence, and you will be able to be a wildly successful quarterback like late into your 30s.
And pardon my, it wasn't 5 years, it was 4 years. So I was off a year. But still, same difference. Like, that's still a long time. That's like freshman year to senior year in college, right?
Yeah.
That's a whole college term. Like, there you go. That's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that wraps it up for all we have about football today. So let's go ahead and get into the March Madness tournaments. First, we will talk about the men's game. We had San Diego State taking on UConn. I think everyone kind of expected how that one was going to go. UConn won it 76-59. UConn won every single game of the tournament by double digits. Like, talk about your just no one else had a chance kind of tournament right there. Every team they played, double digits. That is
insane. That is insane. Yeah, UConn just was a world beater, man. They are officially blue blood in college basketball.
Yep. This was
like,
their, what is it, fourth? Fifth?
Fourth. No, this is their fourth. They're fourth. But still, 25 years? Impressive, guys. Like, mad respect to UConn. They are just – and they've won every single tournament as a lower seed, not as a 1, not as a 2. The highest was a 3. This year was a 4. The lowest was a 7. That is insane. So UConn always gets into the tournament after the Big East play, which is kind of funny because Dan Hurley, their head coach, mentioned that they don't like the Big East schedule. And the Big East schedule prepares them for the tournament. Because he said the best teams in the Big East are the best teams in college basketball, which I agree. Yeah. Because, if you look at it, Creighton made it so far, and they're in the Big East. And then you got Xavier, Big East. You got all these tough teams, Syracuse, Big East. They didn't even make the tournament this year, and they're blue blood. like it's like iron sharpens iron, and that's what Dan Hurley like relies on.
Definitely. Big East is one of the bigger basketball conferences out there. That would be a tough schedule to go play just all season long. It comes with its pros and its cons though too, because you have a lot tougher schedule. Your record might not look as awesome as some of the other teams out there, but at the same time, you've had those challenges all throughout your season, and now you can carry that success and that kind of hard play, challenging play throughout the tournament. And obviously UConn's had wild success with that. It's just crazy that they've sweeped every team like this. And we say double digits every game. That's only because there were a couple games they won by less than 20. Other than this game, and there was one other game, I think, that they won by less than 20, but every other game than that, they won by more than 20 points. So we're talking double digits, but we're talking in the 20s.
100%. So I wanted to shout out Omaha native for San Diego State. Sorry. I'm going to butcher the name. Agwuk Arap. He played for San Diego State this year, and he actually had a lot of quality minutes. So shout out to he played at Omaha South, which is kind of crazy. And it's kind of crazy that San Diego State did beat Creighton, his hometown team that did not offer him a scholarship. Like, come on, Creighton, what are you doing?
All comes back to that, hey, I got no scholarship, and I'm going to take you down now.
Right? But I want to keep talking about Dan Hurley. Like, the game was a while back, so, like, I feel like I can't talk about much of the game. Dan Hurley was a high school coach. Started off 25 years old, high school coach at St. Benedict in New Jersey. Believe it or not. It all goes back to New Jersey.
All comes back to New Jersey.
Every time. He was 223-21 at St. Benedict as a high school coach. Was there from 2001 until 2010. He ended up getting hired to be the Wagner basketball coach at the D1 level, and he went 25-6 in his second year. Climbed himself up, went to Rhode Island 2012 through 2018. He had about 3 great years there, won 26-8, and made it to the Sweet 16. And then he got hired by UConn, and look where he's at now. I like these type of stories of high school coaches that move through the ranks, that get hired at like that lowest level of high school coaching and can be successful at a collegiate, even a professional level. I know you've heard me talk about Bruce Arians and how he's one of my personal heroes. Like, I think these type of situations and these things that occur with people like Dan Hurley, like, it's so powerful to see.
It is. It's awesome. And did Dan Hurley play college basketball?
He did. He played at Seton Hall.
Okay.
So for 4 years.
That's the biggest thing I know when you're talking about these coach stories and whatnot. The way it seems anymore these days, like if you want to be a Division I or professional coach, you have to have played Division I and or professionally. I don't know the exact numbers, but I feel like there's very few coaches out there who did not play at a D1 college level that are actually coaching a D1 or higher level. So just that's the kind of world I'm competing. I don't know if I'll ever make it that high or anything. I don't necessarily plan on it, but that's who I'm competing with.
100%. I think it's really cool though. Like, I want you to keep going after your goals and keep going after your dreams because, hey man, you could be just like Dan Hurley at some point. I want to be like Dan Hurley at some point. That's like one of the major reasons why I'm getting into teaching is to be like a high school coach. Because like if you look at me right now, I'm 5'8", and 200 pounds. Like, no one's going to take me serious on a football field. But if I can earn the respect on the football field, starting off at a small school and, like, climbing your way up, I think that's an awesome thing. And, like, role models like Dan Hurley, like, it keeps, like, guys like me and you going.
Definitely. I love a good coaching story. I love seeing and hearing about how coaches have gone from here to there. When we're doing our recruiting presentations, when we have like group visit days, each coach goes up and gives like their whole background of everywhere they've been. And there's a couple older coaches on the staff, and it's just kind of wild to hear them talk about like, yeah, I was here and then there, then I did this, then I did that, and then I was here. And it's just crazy how just fluent and like working up and back down a little bit. You know, half of them were like, I coached here in college, then I became a head coach in high school, then I went back to college. So lots of them actually dropped from college back down to head coach high school and then move back up to college as like a coordinator or something. So that it's just crazy to hear how many different mixed and matched coaching stories there are. Like I think I've shared before at the coaching convention, Illinois' head football coach, he talked about how he got his first start at Iowa. Just kind of the coach asked him after he graduated. He was just kind of, what do you do? Like, I don't really know. It's like, you want to, GA for me, or you want to coach for me? Like, I can offer you this much money and this guy. And he's like, sure, yeah, I'll do it. And look at him now. He's a head coach at Illinois in the Big Ten. Other guys, it's, like I said, get a low-level college coach position, go be a head high school coach for 10 years, come back up as a coordinator. There's just so many different stories and so many different ways to ultimately get to that kind of end destination that almost any coach ideally wants to get to.
100%. Like you said, yeah, Brett Bellamy is also another awesome story. After you told me about that, that was awesome to hear. But yeah, no, like, just go Dan Hurley and go UConn. Like, I am so happy that UConn won this game. Like, no disrespect to San Diego State. You guys had a fine, good year, especially as a 5 seed to get to the national championship. Holy cow, guys! Like, good job. But UConn, like, they stole the national spotlight. So
definitely. Anyways, moving on from the men's tournament, we will get into the women's tournament a little bit, where our own Iowa Hawkeyes played. Unfortunately, they did lose 102-85 to the LSU Tigers. Where do you want to start first? Let's just start with the game in itself. That officiating was horrible. And I don't just say that because we lost, and I don't just say that because it was super one-sided. It was not super one-sided throughout the entire game. It was like, it went against LSU sometimes, it went against Iowa sometimes, but all in all, it was the worst officiating I've ever seen in basketball.
100% agree. And the technical that they called on Caitlin Clark, really?
There should have been a technical on LSU at one point. You saw, I forget who it was, clear as day on camera. Bullshit. Like, that's a T. That's a tech right there. Where's the T? Like, that's just one of the smallest things those refs didn't do as far as officiating.
I'm going to bring out a little bit of an Iowa side here real quick. It might be a little biased. But, all right, Monica Siciano, right? Gets elbowed in the face, in the paint, and by Angel Reese, and then no foul. But Angel Reese calls elbows Monica Siciano in the paint, and there's a foul on Iowa.
That got wiped away or whatever. That was
that got wiped away, but still, it originally was called a foul.
It was I was about to lose my mind if they were gonna keep that foul. You know it's bad when on all the monitors they're showing the replay of the exact same thing happening the other way. And it's like, oh, this was way earlier in the game. Why are they replaying it right now? Because it just happened again, and the refs called a different scenario. So, yeah, they did wipe that one away, so I will credit them with keeping that consistent, regardless of it should have been called, honestly, both ways, because two girls just got elbowed in the face. But and that just goes to show it was such horrible officiating, because on top of 2 elbows taken to the jaw not getting called, there were times when a woman would swipe at a ball, like getting nothing but ball, just kind of swipes at it, and they're calling a foul. They were inconsistent. They sucked. The officiating was just awful all around.
And it's really sad because this was the most watched national championship for women's basketball ever.
Yeah.
And this was the most anticipated women's basketball national championship ever. And to get robbed by the refs, and I'm not even counting it as like Iowa being like, yeah, because we lost, we lost because of the refs. No, we didn't lose because of the refs. You know why we lost? Because we don't have bench depth. Yeah. That's why.
That is the biggest reason. The refs are somewhat ish to blame, but overall, like I said, it was both ways. It was just the inconsistency all around. There were women hardly getting touched and fouls were being called, and there were women getting elbowed in the face and nothing was being called. Like, how do you know what level to play at when they're going to be that inconsistent and wishy-washy with their stuff? And speaking of the viewership you just mentioned, yeah, this was not only the most viewed for the women's tournament ever, this women's championship game has had more views than any NBA game has this entire season. That is just insane. So there were hundreds of thousands of people watching this game. Just absolutely insane audience. And they did get robbed. Not just the Iowa fans, but everybody watching this game got robbed by the refs just being, I don't even know what words I can say. But yeah, that is the only complaint I have about the game. I mean, obviously I have others. Iowa lost, but I'm not Iowa's coach, so I'm not going to pretend like I would have done any differently. Sometimes watching the game in the local bar in Springville that I watch it in, sometimes hearing some of the other people making comments and talking, it is very, very strong Iowa bias, and you can tell that they just don't get, like, this wasn't even about the championship game. This was our game against Louisville. Somebody on Louisville's side got knocked to the ground, and everyone was like, oh, flop, oh, get up. Like, and then she went back in like a minute later. They're like, oh, now she's just fine. She's just going to be back in. Like, oh, yeah, obviously nothing happened. I'm like, you ever get the wind knocked out of you? It takes a second to get back up. Like, what the are you talking about? And then Caitlin Clark falls down almost the exact same way. And everyone's like, oh my God, that was egregious. I'm like, that was the exact same shit that happened before to the other girl. Like, they are so biased and they don't even try to hide it. I try my very hardest not to be like that when I'm watching the teams I support. Obviously, I can't help but let a little bit of bias flow through, but I'm not that bad. It drives me a little bit crazy sometimes, being around those kind of fans when it's just like, can we please watch the sport for what the sport is and not just think that everything has to always be in Iowa's favor, whether it's actually right or wrong?
For sure, 100%. I wanted to go back to the views real quick. So the crazy part with this is that 4.85 million viewers watched this women's national championship game. Insane. Last year's national championship game, 1.25 million.
So more than double.
More than double. And the men's national championship game this year, 5.1. We gave, like, women's national championship game gave a run for the money against the men's and almost came out on top. It should have came out on top. And ticket prices were more expensive for the women's national championship game than the men's national championship game.
That's awesome. Well, Iowa actually, speaking of ticket prices and stuff, like, Iowa actually had to suspend their ticket sales for next season.
I saw that.
Because they need to ensure that they have enough seats for, like, alumni they're inviting or, like, the student sections or something like that. Like, they actually had to suspend their ticket sales to make sure that they had enough seats for the people they needed to give seats for.
Which is crazy. And if we're talking about next year, hopefully we got a Haley Van Leith coming to Iowa because she just entered the transfer portal from Louisville.
We won't.
I know, but hey, I wanted to throw her. She's in the transfer portal, so I wanted to throw her in there.
She has her mind made up. She knows where she's going. She's asked not to be contacted. She has a lot of Adidas NIL deals, so ultimately she does have to go to an Adidas school, hence why she can't go to Iowa. Iowa's a Nike school. So, yeah, I'm curious to see where she actually ends up at. She could just be trying to get closer to home. She could be trying to go somewhere where she can actually – not that they didn't compete for a national championship. I mean, they made it to the Elite Eight. That's pretty high. But maybe she thinks she can do better elsewhere. I don't know. But she on.
Yeah, she could be going. It's kind of a pipe dream having her, another superstar, coming to Iowa. I think it'd be really cool. But she probably will end up going to home. But, man – what a national championship.
For sure. That was my first thought too. Like initially as I was like, Iowa beyond because she was on a team with Caitlin Clark before. I mean, they have played together. But yeah, that's not gonna happen, unfortunately. But all right. We have to address the elephant in the room now with this championship game. And that is the so controversial topic of Angel Reese's post-game celebration. So for those of you who don't know, Angel Reese, following the game, did the "You Can't See Me" John Cena hand wave, following around Caitlin Clark for like a minute, just following her around, doing it, and then afterwards tapped her finger like, yeah, ring. This had a lot of people kind of up in arms and upset about it. Avery, I'll let you go to your thoughts, just base thoughts on what we'll call shit talking. Just go.
My mindset with this is that it's all competitiveness. It's all a competitive spirit. I don't think Angel Reese was in the wrong. Being an Iowa fan, I really don't think she was in the wrong at all. The one thing I would say about it is like her walking around, like a little weird. Like you just won the championship, go celebrate with your team. Get that out of your head. You can do this. You can point at that for like 10 seconds. Go celebrate with your team. You just won the national championship. I don't see anything wrong with it. I think it's just competitive spirit. And you know what? If you're not cocky, or at least a little bit cocky when you win a game, I don't care. Then you don't have that competitiveness drive. That's my base. I'll get more into it, but let's hear your response.
My base take is similar, but also kind of the opposite a little bit. So first thing I'll say, I'm going to have a very weird argument. You guys are going to have a hard time deciphering where I stand in my argument exactly because it's complex. This is a complex topic. First of all, just to comment on you, I do think Angel Reese is in the wrong because I do not like shit talk. There is a difference between showing competitiveness and being a good sport. And I don't like this kind of shit talk. I don't enjoy when players are over, like, it's one thing to be cocky and like dealing with fans and being like hyping yourself up. And it's another thing to be like directly, outing or whatever, like something at another player. That being said, I don't think it's in the wrong because it's Angel Reese and she did it to Caitlin Clark and I think it's in the wrong whenever it happens. I hate it when it happens. Caitlin Clark did the same thing against Louisville. But granted, like you said, Caitlin Clark did it a couple seconds kind of at the Louisville bench and was on celebrating with her team. I still don't like it because, like I said, I don't like that kind of just whatever you want to call it. It's not a competitive thing. Like, it is competitiveness, but it's over the top. Like, I don't like just directly like giving someone the middle finger. I prefer just kind of the like showboating is one thing. Like Caitlin Clark holding her ear up to the crowd, like, hey, come on, let's hear it. That's completely different from either one of them. They both have done it, doing the "you can't see me" hand wave at somebody.
Okay, I get where you're going with it, but at the same time, the way I look at it also is Caitlin Clark didn't just do it for seconds; she did it for multiple times. And I know it's not we're comparing apples and oranges, but Caitlin Clark literally told Haley Van Leith, "You're down 15. Shut the fuck up."
And
it was literally captioned. And
I'm not arguing that Caitlin Clark is in the right. I just said I don't like when anyone does that. My argument is I don't like it when people do that. Like I just said, I have nothing against Angel Reese. I don't like that she did that. I don't like that Caitlin Clark yelled at Haley Van Ness. I don't like that she did the "can't see me" to Louisville's bench. I don't. And men do this all the time too. That's my other big take with this. I don't understand why everyone's blowing up about it, because this happens in men's games all the time and no one says a word. But the minute these girls are going to start going at each other, now everyone's concerned and calling them classless. What?
Yeah, it's the end of the world. Like, I don't know. Like, this happens in every level of sports. Like, and, I understand, where this country is. Like, I know why we are so divided. With many issues like this. Sometimes I hate the media making things out for things that shouldn't be made out. Like, this should not have been a big deal. The media purposely followed Angel Reese around to create a story, to create a dramatic story. The one thing I will say against Angel Reese is that Caitlin Clark does live rent-free in your mind, man. Like, you need to let go. I know you're a damn good basketball player, Angel Reese. You're going to be a great WNBA player. You balled out. I don't know if you were the best player on the LSU team or the best player in the tournament, because not Carson May. What was her name? She did amazing.
The other LSU
Tiger
player.
Right. Jasmine Carson off the bench, 22 points. Off the bench, hitting every three. You look like Caitlin Clark out there.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to give mad respect to this. Like, she was amazing. There was another girl that, idolized Caitlin Clark on LSU's bench. Alexis Morris, amazing. Like we said in the beginning of the game, Iowa didn't lose because of the refs. We lost because these guys have a squad.
And they shot lights out early in the game. They were shooting 75% from three in the first half. Their average on the year is 34. So when you're going to have that knockout of a game, they're hard to beat. I fully wholeheartedly think that Iowa wins this game 7 times out of 10. If this game is played 10 times, I think Iowa wins 7 out of them. But holy crap, did they pull out the 3 of those 10 where they just shot lights out, and they really brought it to Iowa hard. Now, going back to the whole Angel Reese thing a little bit, going away from my general side of things and moving into my Iowa bias side of things, I do have to say, this was not Angel Reese's way to celebrate. Like you said, cockiness has its place in the game, and showboating and all that stuff has its place in the game. But I'm sorry, what are you showboating? 15 points, 10 rebounds. Congratulations. You don't score those 15 points, LSU still won. They didn't need, in that and I understand basketball is way, way more complex. Obviously, her just being on the court is a factor all in and of itself. You take her out, it's going to be completely different. But theoretically, take away the 15 points you scored, LSU still won. Why are you going so hard as to throw it in the face of Caitlin Clark? You didn't even guard Caitlin Clark. You and Caitlin Clark did not go against each other one-on-one in this game whatsoever. Why are you the one being all, yeah, look it up? Your team is over there having a good time, celebrating with each other, cherishing the game that they won, and you're over here trying to act like you're hot shit.
Yeah, that's why they call her the Bayou Barbie. I don't know if you've heard of her nickname.
I have not.
Yeah, her nickname is the Bayou Barbie. She has a lot of NIL deals. This is the woman I was telling you about previous episode, that she has the most NIL deals in college basketball. And You know why? Because big personalities equal big paychecks.
And that's what does.
And so you got to think, I think you got to think part of this is an act. Like every sporting event has actors. Like I feel like even if it's not like a fixed game, fixed that, you got to be able to entertain. And that's why Caitlin Clark does what she does, because she knows she can. Angel Reese knows she can because her game backs it up. That's why that's my standpoint on it. Because this is what makes sports. We wouldn't be spending 10 minutes talking about this if they just went out, shook hands, good game.
For sure. We definitely wouldn't be saying anything about it. And there is, like I said, there is definitely a place for showboating and everything. I think my biggest thing with it is just I've never been a big showboater because I am absolutely terrified of showboating and then living down. Because once you talk shit, if you lose, you got to expect some shit to be talked back. And that's the part that I don't want to hear. Like, I will never talk shit because on the off chance that I do lose and stuff, I don't want to deal with being talked back to. So I don't do it. Some people are good with it. Caitlin Clark was great with it. Didn't even acknowledge that Angel Reese was doing this. Said later, she in like a press conference, just like, I don't care. Like, it, like, they won, whatever. Like, it's, she did not care. It did not bother her at all. It would bother me a ton, and that's why I don't do it. And that's why I don't like it, is because I just don't like being disproven in that sense. But like you said, big personalities does lead to big money. And that's a part of the reason that these women and these guys do what they do, is it is a money thing. Like, Angel Reese's name has come up in the news a million times in this past week, all because of this. Whether for good or for bad, it's publicity. Like, she is popular right now. So if that was her goal, was to just, like, be more famous from this, she definitely obtained that goal. And that's some of what sports is too, is you got to be that kind of X factor player. That doesn't always mean on the court. Sometimes that just means off the court. You gather the eyes, you get the attention.
For sure. So I just want to read off a couple of these girls, these women's quotes at the end of the game to kind of not finish us off, because I think both of them were so similar in so many ways. So I'll start off with Angel Reese's first. I don't fit in the box that y'all want me to be in. I'm too hood, I'm too ghetto. Y'all told me this all year. When others people do it, y'all don't say nothing. This was for people that look like me. I play for people that look like me. Okay, there's Angel Reese's quote right there. Caitlin Clark's quote is, I want my legacy to be the impact that I have on young girls and the people in the state of Iowa. I hope I brought them a lot of joy this season. I want them to see that if I can do it, they can do it. Okay, that's a lot to break down with both sides. Both sides are playing for the young kids that look like them. And I think, if you take all the showboaty, the everything out, I think a lot of people learn really two great role models. Angel Reese, constant, she does it her own way. That's fine. But I think a lot of young girls in the society that are going to grow up playing WNBA or playing AAU basketball and high school basketball and middle school basketball, they can look up to both of these girls, and they both have role models, because both of these guys are going to the WNBA. And guess what? Both of these guys are going to change the path of the WNBA. It's going to be progressive for women's sports because of these two.
Definitely. They're setting some huge examples. They are role models to be watched. Definitely have to take their extracurriculars with a little bit of a grain of salt, but watching them on the court and everything they've accomplished and everything they've done is definitely something to look up to for a lot of young women out there that are inspired.
For sure. And I just want to say, Kobe Bryant, one of the greatest shit talkers in the world. One of the greatest shit talkers in the world, would talk shit up and down the court all day long. But guess what? Fantastic guy.
Yeah.
On and off the court. Fantastic guy. Rest in peace. Mamba mentality. But that's kind of what these two remind me of right there.
And that is the duality of it a little bit too, is like there is a bit of a difference from shit talking during a game on a court, just like, like throwing jabs back and forth, and then being, sportsman-like, kind of whatever, like post game, like outside of the realm of basketball and stuff. Angel Reese is not that. Angel Reese is not doing what Kobe Bryant did, shit talking up and down the court, and then afterwards being an outstanding character. You said she continued to just belittle Caitlin Clark on her TikTok following the game. Days later, after the game, she didn't even shake her hand. I know you mentioned the handshakes earlier, but that didn't even happen. LSU was over there freaking out about their win and everything. Angel Reese is off doing her stuff. I was lining up, getting ready to shake hands, and no one's lining up across from them.
Yeah, and that's on the coaching. Kim Mulkey, not a big fan of Kim Mulkey.
I don't think a lot of people are.
Yeah, I'm not, but that goes on coaching, right there. Act like you've been there. I know you hear that a lot, but at the same time, like, I'm just saying, like, I think all these women are young. They're in college. They're young. They got so many years to mature and still grow as people and grow as individuals. So, and it took Kobe a lot of years to become the guy he was before he passed. So, I think that's just kind of,
a part of it is a maturity aspect. A part of it comes with playing the game over a long enough time. And like you said, a part of it is your mentorship, and that being LSU's coach, Kim Mulkey. I think, the way Angela Reese is kind of doing things right now reflects on Mulkey a lot, and that, not, like you said, not a huge fan of her, but yeah, I like to think that later down in the WNBA, because obviously these two are going to cross paths again. They're obviously,
they could play on the same team.
They could play on the same team.
Is a sophomore, Caitlin Clark's a junior.
It is possible. I'm going to say more likely than not, they'll be playing on different teams. But one way or another, they are going to play against and or with each other again. And by that point in time, I would hope that both of them, to some degree, have matured up some. I think Caitlin Clark is a little ahead of Angel Reese, but also she is a junior compared to a sophomore, so that is to be expected. But yeah, hopefully later down on in the professional side of things, they'll still be showboating. They'll still be shit talking. Don't get me wrong. That's happening. But I just hope that the off the court stuff cleans up and becomes more sportsmanlike.
For sure. Well, and that's a great rivalry for years to come. And that's going to bring a lot of fans, because I guarantee I'm going to watch a lot more WNBA than I've ever have. And I guarantee you'll tune in also.
I am.
Yeah. So, speaking of the WNBA, I just want to mention one thing. Monica Siciano, she's a senior. She's projected to be a lottery pick in the first round of the WNBA draft. So let's see Monica in the WNBA. It'll be exciting to see. She's physical. She's tough. She only had 13 points during that, but she played her heart out. She played her heart out all year. So
one of the big reasons she only had 13 points is because she racked up 4 fouls really quick.
Very quick. And she fouled out halfway through the fourth.
So thanks, officials, for being touchy babies. But no, there's a potential Caitlin Clark could be back with Monica Siciano in the WNBA. Like you said, Sinano's going now. Clark will be a year later. It could happen. They could be back together.
Imagine Monica Siciano and Angel Reese, because they're both one's a forward and one's a center, pairing up on the same team as the two post. Oh man,
that would not go well. Hopefully, like I just said, they will have matured enough to the point to be like, we're teammates now. Let's chill. But
for sure.
At the time, yeah, that'd be interesting to see.
It would be very cool to see.
They need some team bonding activities to help mesh a little bit maybe there.
For sure, 100%.
All right. Well, that's all we got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed watching. Give us your takes on the whole women's tournament, men's tournament. Give us your takes on anything we talked about today. Please just comment below. We'll be posting some clips on TikTok and stuff. Go comment on those, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Listen to these podcasts. Show us your support and tell a friend. If you got anyone interested, football, basketball, maybe a little baseball as it starts coming up, just tell your friends, share the name, challenge the call. Avery?
Yeah, I wanted to go on to the TikTok thing for a second. We're creating top 3 quarterbacks of every fan base. So we've already done Bears, Bengals, Bills, and Broncos. So if you're a fan of a team, comment who you think your top 3 quarterbacks of history are of that fan base. That would be awesome. I would love to see some of your input. And other than that, guys, baseball's back. Hawkeyes still are awesome. So go Cubs, go Hawks, and bear down.